Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this new session. Welcome to this video for people who are going to watch this video on other platforms, probably on YouTube or other platforms. So today we're going to talk about a topic that I personally love so much. We're going to talk about AR, augmented reality. And we have someone that is the least a specialist in that, and his name is Anthony Tron. Hi, Anthony. Thank you for being here with us today. So Anthony is actually the CEO and co-founder of a startup company here in Los Angeles. It's in Santa Monica, right? Is it in Santa Monica?
We work out of downtown Los Angeles.
Okay, all right. So definitely here in downtown Los Angeles. So his company focuses on creating AR experiences. Anthony is also a guest lecturer in USC, University of South California, in a course called AR/VR journalism course, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. And actually he worked on several projects linked into augmented reality and virtual reality. Thank you very much, Anthony, for being here and for sharing your experience with us. So why are we talking about AR today? Why are we talking about branding? So as we know, people are on internet all the time, more than ever, and brands feel like this is a huge opportunity for them to connect with customers, with existing customers and potential customers. And Anthony today is going to talk about let's say it's not really a new, but it's a different way that brands can use to connect and that they can leverage to connect differently, let's say in a new way, with new customers. So Anthony, the floor is yours. I will be happy to collect questions while you are presenting, and then as soon as you're done, we will be able to answer people's questions. Okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you very much.
All right, let me share my screen here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Are you seeing that, Inez?
Okay, it says it started screen sharing, but I don't see your screen yet.
Okay, let's see. Let's try stop share. Okay, the screen share.
Yes, I think it's working right now. We see your screen.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Looking, oh, sorry.
That's fine.
Give me 1 second. The deck has disappeared on me. Let me figure it out. All right, sorry guys, let me just bring up my deck.
No worries. All that happens, and we know how life is. And things disappear when you need them.
Yeah, exactly. We were testing it a second ago and then it was working.
I know. Don't worry about that. People will understand, and we understand things like that happen.
Okay, see if we can get this to work. All right. Do you see the Foundry 6 deck?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think we're good to go, right?
Okay. It says Foundry 6 Play Reality.
Yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
Perfect. There we go. Working.
We're good to go.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, a quick introduction to our team. Our company is Foundry 6, and we focus, like Inez mentioned, we do augmented reality experiences for brands. And a quick look into our work. A lot of our work deals with social media. We have put out filters that have been viewed over 1 billion times and that they've been played now over actually 200 million times. So that number has grown in the past couple of months. And you get a lot of good organic following through integrating augmented reality experiences to your company. It's a new way to interact with them. And a lot of the millennials and Gen Z really take well to it. So first thing is, what's augmented reality? A lot of people have this question. There's a big difference between augmented reality and virtual reality. Truth of the matter is, right now, especially with the coronavirus, there's a lot of opportunity in both industries to engage with users. The main thing to keep in mind when we're talking about AR and VR and why it's important right now is with both mediums, you can have digital assets and you can present them to your customers remotely. And that's super important right now. Like if your customer wants to come into your store, they cannot, right? If you want to interact with your customers, you cannot in person. And with AR and VR, it lets you do that by kind of playing around with their real space so that they still feel some element of telepresence. So when we look at AR in business, I like to break it down in terms of 3 things, especially with B2C. With B2C, we can talk about product placement. That is physically putting your product in their space. And we'll go over a couple of examples of that. But with product placement, it's really cool because you can show off, you know, the bike or vase or whatever it is that you make. And because the camera and software is so good now, it shows up with correct sizing within a few centimeters. So if someone's trying to figure out how, you know, your picture frame fits on their wall, they will get a very, very accurate feel of how it will show up in their room. Then AR is also really good for PR because it's visually very cool. We can make things kind of look like magic by things popping out from the ground or making your product come to life. And we'll show some examples of that. And then the last thing is social engagement, which is one of our specialties. By engaging users on Instagram and Snapchat, you can kind of give them these immersive experiences where, one, they're really fun to do. So people are like, whoa, this is really cool. And they will share it. And when you can get that viral hit, they're sharing your experience, your product to their friends. And if their friends share it, then it goes global really, really, really quickly. And that's where it gets really exciting to see one of your campaigns go from nothing to 100 million hits in a week. That is super powerful. All right, so this was something that was just put out by Vogue Business. And essentially, a lot of people aren't thinking too much about AR and VR because, you know, it's so new. But when you put AR in your on your site or in your campaigns, you get a lot more engagement. And again, now people, you know, they'll be able to view it, and that little extra element of both functionally of, okay, cool, I can see it. And the second part is the cool factor, whoa, like how is this showing up? Really, really drives that user engagement. So here is one example. People are using AR to kind of recreate their storefront. Because we can't go into stores right now, how can you actually let people try things on? So if you are something like a makeup, or in this example, Ray-Bans did a campaign, you can let someone get a very good experience of what it is like to try on your product, especially around the face, because with face detection, the computer vision is really, really good there right now. That could be really powerful. So, you know, if I wanted to say, oh man, like, is that pair of glasses going to look cool on me? You know, most of the time they'll look at it on a website and you're like, I don't know if you know, that fits my frame, the framing of my face. Well, now they can try it on and get close to that in-person experience. You know, it's not quite there yet to be the perfect replacement, but it's getting close really, really quickly. All right, so here's a a quick video of what AR product placement looks like. Let me see if I can get this to play. There we go. So this is a campaign that is live right now. Amazon lets you put in 3D models of your product. Well, Shopify lets you put in 3D models of your product. Amazon will do it for their big products. And what you're seeing here is it was on Amazon. They're like, all right, that mouse looks cool. Now they're in their room. So now this is where the immersion starts. They're looking at their room through their phone, and they want to see if that mouse maybe both looks cool with their laptop, or maybe if it fits on their desk, right? I mean, mouse is pretty small, so I'm sure it'll fit. But if it was larger, they might want to really, really make sure that it fits in that space. So this is a really cool way to give people a feel of what that product feels like within their home. And that's very, very powerful when you're trying to sell products remotely. So that was product placement. Again, so that is the functional side of AR with business. How do you give people a good representation of what your product's like? This example is done by a company called 19 Crimes. This drove up their sales by over 100%. And this goes more in the PR element of the wow factor of AR, right? When they get their product, you can have them, give them a magical experience where that product comes to life. So with 19 Crimes, they had their bottles with all these like criminals from Australia, and they would tell stories of who they were. And that little bit of magic using augmented reality really, really was a good campaign for them and drove up sales. All right, so now to what's happening on social. And this is probably where the most engagement is happening and where we find the most excitement. Everything's exciting, but this is where almost, a lot of views are going. Right now, face filters on social are evolving really, really quickly. That's primarily because now there are open platforms for companies like yourselves to build things for your customers. So that happened maybe about a year ago. So it's relatively new still, but it's a new way to engage with your customers. You see these are some of our hit filters. We made some games. We let people play around with their favorite Star Wars characters. These games have been viewed over 100 million times each globally. So that type of engagement is really powerful. And we're still grasping how fast one of our filters goes around the earth and all the people viewing it. It's really spectacular. So when we create a face filter, we usually break it down into two categories. One is game and one is visual. The reason why that's important is because they have different type of engagement factors with the user. With a game, it kind of gives them an activity to do. It's highly shareable because they come out with a story. Primarily, augmented reality filters are shared in Instagram stories or Snapchat stories. Visual filters are also very powerful. They make people look really, really cool. In that case, most of the time, the user will still have some element of creating something to do. If I just had bunny ears on my head, I'd still need to say something to my audience. With the game filters, we find that it helps close that gap of what do you say while you're creating content. This list is just important because these people right here were the people who started kind of the trend of face filters online. And they still to this day are a good way to get one of your filters, if you do end up creating one, to spread very quickly. So if you create a really, really cool filter, these people love discovering new filters and they'll help spread it to their followers, and that's one way you can go viral. So this is an example. If any of you guys are on social media, IG in particular, and have been viewing stories, you probably have seen this in the past 2 weeks. And this was done by one of our partners. He created a game where people are trying to guess what the gibberish is. And it was a fun little activity for them to do while they're creating content. The interesting thing that you'll notice is he injected branding into the bottom of the filter. So while people are sharing this, they're sharing this to their friends. People are looking at this logo, Incoherent, which is a brand that he put into the filter itself. This filter was viewed 1.5 billion times in 2 weeks. It is astronomical how fast this filter went viral. This is another example that you may have seen on social media. This went so viral so quickly, Jimmy Fallon ended up doing a version of it. And it was the "Which Disney character are you?" And it showed this randomizer above people's heads of a Disney character. And it let people kind of identify with their character. The reason why this one's important, okay, there is that aspect, okay, cool, it gets spread very quickly. But after this trend was set, many brands ended up copying the format, because now the format becomes something very recognizable to millennials, where they go, okay, cool. I'm just gonna inject my brand now. So it'd be like, which Nike shoe are you? So that was one that was done. And then there's like, which Harry Potter character are you? And because this trend was so easily changed for other products and brands, a lot of people came in and started creating their own. So I want to give you guys a quick intro into the tools that we use when we create filters. I don't want to get too technical, and I'll give you some cool link at the end of one of my friends' websites, which lets people create filters really, really easily. So if you have an Instagram page and you're trying to engage your customers, the tool at the end is great. But we'll go into what Spark is really quickly. So Spark is the platform that came out about a year ago that let anyone on earth create an Instagram filter for whichever account they wanted to. So before that, everything was controlled by Instagram. Like, you could not put out a custom, Anthony Tran or Foundry 6 filter. So if you do have that inclination to get a little technical, it's a great place to start. All you do is go to Facebook, type in Facebook Spark AR, you download the software, and there's a lot of cool templates to start off of, and you can see some of them here. You can create backgrounds. Background, we call that segmentation. You can cut out your entire background, put your logo there. Face decoration is very, very popular as well. World object is world object allows you to do what we mentioned earlier, which is placing your product in their space. So if you have a cool creative idea that might be a little more technical, you can start here. But this website was done by a friend of mine. It's called effectsmakers.com. This borrowed off of that trend that I mentioned earlier, which was the randomizer, injecting some photos of your product and then have it just randomize. And if your customer base, really enjoys the different products you have, it's a fun little activity for them to do. This website's just really cool because it makes it even simpler than trying to use Spark AR. You just kind of upload your photos, and then it'll output a file that you upload to Spark. So it reduces the amount of work and the amount of technical ability by a lot. So instead of trying to figure out how to use Spark and all the minor coding you might have to do, it's very little in general. But if you want to make it even simpler by just uploading some photos and getting a filter out of it, this program's very cool for that. And that's pretty much it. There's a lot there. There's a lot of ways right now, while everyone's stuck at home, to still engage with customers. And that's the main takeaway. When coronavirus actually hit, a lot of our filters got a little uptick. And that's because people are at home and they're on their phones and they need something to do. They're going to connect with their friends. One, if you can help them connect with their friends through a fun filter, that's cool. If you can inject your branding into it or connect your brand to your customer right now through social, that is super powerful, right? I'm still a believer in in-person interaction, but while we are kind of stuck separate, there are so many technological tools that are closing that gap, especially in the AR and VR community right now. We really envision that day when you don't even have to go in anywhere and you can truly feel like you're with your friend and not lose out on that actual presence and being with them. That's a long ways away, but today we can do so many things on mobile and AR to really connect each other. And that's pretty much it. Inez, you want to jump back in here and we can take some questions?
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you very, very much. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I got you.
Cool. Yeah, so thank you very much. I was actually looking at my notes because I was surprised with this number, this 1.5 billion times you said. Are you sure? Is it billion?
It's billion with a B. It's insane.
Okay.
So, what's happening right now with with face filters in particular and face filter games, the games have something very special with them. When you create an AR experience where it's fun, like really fun to do, and friends can, it helps people create content that they want to share, right? Again, two things happen. One, you start sharing it with your friends and your friends start sharing it with their friends. That is one viral avenue where you get these crazy spikes. Again, it's hard to believe, right? 1.5 billion views in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What happens is celebrities like it too. That's actually the big key. So when we put out our filters and when our friends put out filters, we have people like Emma Chamberlain doing it, right? Emma Chamberlain, she's like one of the biggest YouTubers and Instagram stars right now. People like Diplo, Justin Bieber does face filters all the time.
Okay.
So as a percentage of people's stories on their Instagram and social media, face filters is becoming a larger percentage as time passes. Now, any particular filter will be trending. So that trend might die, right? So our filters, they go through these crazy spikes. So when we put out our, which Star Wars character are you? Mark Hamill did it, right? So Luke Skywalker did it. That was perfect for us. Mark Hamill does it, shoots up in views in a week. We're just seeing hundreds of millions of people do it. And we're like, whoa, that's super crazy.
Yeah, and I'm a true believer in using face filters definitely as part of your social media strategy, like for a brand. But what surprises me is that I don't see enough brands around the world using this opportunity, I want to say, because there a lot of them stick to classic stuff, ads, games, timeline games and stuff like that. I don't see, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see enough brands taking advantage of this amazing tool, I want to say.
I mean, that we say this all the time too. Like with this amount of views, it's super powerful, right? So, I mean, there are a couple elements to that in terms of like the practicality of brand engagement on Instagram. And I think it's important to talk about that stuff. It's not like it's not like you're going to put out a filter and it's going to also get that type of engagement. What's important is that it can, right? There's not many
potential.
You still need to be creative. Like if the filter's boring, no one's gonna do it. No one's gonna do it. People still want a creative AR face filter to do. So ideating around what could be really fun for your customers is very, very important. Looking at user experience. User experience. Looking at what's trending with people's stories is super important. So that's one thing that we do when we're trying to create a new filter for a brand or even for our own account. I look through hundreds of stories every day and I see what's trending. And then you build an AR filter around that and there's a higher likelihood that people will share it. So that's really important.
It's part of a creative process.
Yeah, and it's also important to know it is still pretty new, which is why not many people know about it. Now, you ask their kids, you ask anyone's kids, they're really like, oh yeah, the gibberish
Of course.
filter. Totally, I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that, right?
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
it is a bizarre thing, right? Like you got this thing stuck to your face. It's kind of weird, but
Yeah,
people really, really like it.
absolutely. And then I noted something else. You talked about filter influencers. So we're more, maybe our audience is more accustomed to hearing social media influencers, YouTube
Yeah.
influencers, Instagram influencers, but not filter influencers. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because
Yeah.
you mentioned it in your presentation.
Filter influencers are social media influencers, just a subset of those
Okay.
influencers. And they are the people who were very passionate about
Mm-hmm.
filters from the get-go. And they're
Mm-hmm.
the ones that are sharing new filters for people to discover. So, with a lot of discoverability, it's almost like music. You kind of look for the people who are looking for the new kind of novel music. It
Yeah.
depends on where you are on the innovation curve and how,
Right.
how
Yeah, I see
early
that.
you want to adopt something. And so with
Mm-hmm.
the filter influencers, they're
Mm-hmm.
willing to try out a lot of new weird filters that you
Mm-hmm.
create, and they're a good way to kind of spread anything that you might put on Instagram.
Mm. Can you, I mean, do you have in mind any AR apps or something that are, created specifically in this COVID-19 context? Maybe you're aware about something that might be helpful, might useful, or even funny to use. Um, I think that maybe if we have any apps or filters that are, talking about what is happening, maybe, I don't know, you can play with viruses, chase virus, I don't know.
Yeah, that's
That might
actually
be.
there's an interesting thing there.
Mhm.
So a lot of the big companies, especially with open platforms for content creators,
Mhm.
um, are very sensitive to coronavirus content. So that's just one thing to note.
Okay.
They're worried that people are going to make a joke of it or trivialize the situation.
Okay.
So
I
we
see.
we actually created an application called
Uh-huh.
social distancing, and it showed people what 6 feet was in their actual physical space. Um,
Oh.
so because AR is very good at showing measurements,
Yes.
we created that application. Thing to note though about that is
Mhm.
um, it was rejected by the App Store because
Okay.
they didn't want any type of company to try to like exploit the situation. We were not doing that, but anything that was related to uh,
COVID-19.
COVID-19 was just kind of banned unless you were associated with a hospital or a medical institution.
All
Uh, that
right.
that being said, there were a lot of cool campaigns that were done um,
Mhm.
with the WHO, with like Yahoo News, that actually did use AR to display COVID-19 information, and that was very, very cool to see that happen in the community. People are using what we call web AR because a lot of people don't want to download an app. Um, they might use their web browser, and a lot of people don't know this yet. You can do
Mhm.
AR experiences from your Chrome or Safari on your iOS or Android right now, right? So we
Yes.
call that web AR. It's just a
Mhm.
link. They'll click it. They'll ask for access to your camera, and you can
Yeah.
immerse your customer in an experience right away.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Didn't know about the COVID-19 thing. That's very interesting. Actually, I spotted a question, one of the questions on the chat box talking about VR and AR. Which one is more likely to go mainstream first? This is a question that comes back a lot. I don't know what's your point of view on that?
Like, I love both. In general, I love all immersive technology. Um, we My company focuses on AR because everyone has a mobile device. So the fact that your phone can do computer vision and
Mm-hmm.
do things like product placement and use face detection to do AR on your face, that is a way to use AR today. And so in terms of what will go mainstream first, well, AR on the phone is already mainstream. Like I said, like 1.5 billion people is mainstream already, right?
Absolutely.
Now, the reality is it's a subset of what we consider AR, right? We do want true AR one day where we put on glasses and we see all this cool like Pokemon walking around. VR at the same time is growing. So last year, Facebook's a headset, I believe it's the Quest, the Oculus Quest, that had its record amount of sales last year. So the VR headsets are becoming more accessible to people because that was brought in at a, I believe like $400 price point. That is super powerful, but it hasn't gotten mass purchases yet. So we're still in the immersive tech space. We're waiting for everyone, or at least 1 out of 2 people to have a VR headset before we really start distributing mass products to people on VR. Because again, most likely most people don't have a VR headset.
Yes, it's about about the headset, but I'm quite optimistic because now, I mean, since a few years we have the standalone headsets. We used to have the wires and all this stuff. So this is definitely something that was extremely helpful, and with the prices dropping a little bit and with the hardware getting better and better, I think this is going to be it's actually very helpful. I don't think that we will wait for 5 or 10 years or so. Maybe there's an acceleration somewhere.
In terms of,
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
With talking about AR versus VR headsets, this is kind of a nuanced argument. On the headset front, which is what we consider kind of like the holy grail of, that type of immersive experience, VR is actually way ahead. AR is just doing well because everyone doing that on a mobile device is pretty useful. You can do it today. But the Quest sales are just going up, like you said. So we see VR growing in terms of the hardware faster than AR.
What do you think will be the main industries that are going to take advantage of VR and AR experiences? Because in my classes, for instance, on my workshops, I have people thinking and answering to my questions, to this question, gaming. Gaming is definitely going, and it's stuck somewhere in people's minds that AR and VR are for teenagers and are for gaming, and that's it. While we know that possibilities, sky is the limit. The possibilities are infinite. So which industry are you seeing, because you're closer than I am into industry, or in there, you're creating part of the industry. So which industry you see is going to take the most or first advantage of those technologies, other than gaming, of course?
So, okay, yeah, like exactly. People talk about gaming a lot because it's the thing that they see on TV the most. But what people don't realize that's happening in the tech space right now, there is a lot of investment and a lot of research being done with VR and AR in the medical field, in education. So people right now, right as we speak, are looking at ways to teach students remotely through VR tools, right? Because when you can't have your teacher in front of you, you still want to connect immersively or be as close to them as possible. On the AR, and there's a distinction to be made between AR and VR. With VR, you are teleported. Your presence and your kind of mind and visual field are teleported to another space. It's very magical. AR has applications when you're trying to get information about where you currently are, right? Like if I want information on my own face, or if I want information on my space. That being said, this is why AR has done very, very well in manufacturing and in the military. So the military bought $500 million worth of AR headsets last year from Microsoft HoloLens. And that's because the military has always had a history of using AR to give people on the field information very, very quickly. So if I could immediately look at a car or whatever and get information about it, and if it might be friendly or foe, that's super powerful. In the manufacturing sector, AR, a lot of people think Google Glass died. Google Glass is still around, but it's not B2C anymore. It went B2B. So Google Glass Enterprise still exists, and that actually does very well. So companies like Boeing buy a lot of Google Glass Enterprise because the small difference of having AR information in your field of view, and you get to just see schematics of like a plane without having to go to the book back and forth, saves something around 40 to 70% of time while they're
Oh,
performing.
wow. That's
Some,
huge.
huge. For a company like Boeing, that's in the tens of millions of dollars in savings and
Wow.
labor. So, you know, outside of gaming, the applications of AR and VR are really, really vast.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, especially with what is going on. And like you said, the education sector is something that was supposed to take advantage of AR and VR, definitely. But I feel like what is going on with the COVID-19 thing and with the social distancing and with the world trying to work from, from home, and obviously this is not something that is going to be around for a few days or a few weeks. Maybe we will need to deal with that for the coming few months or years. We don't know. We really don't know. But I feel like there's a good side in that, at least when it comes to accelerating the use of those technologies, and for people to see the potential, like people used to see AR and VR more like useful for entertainment, for maybe marketing, for branding, and still they don't see the full potential of it. But maybe now with what is going on, this might be like a way to accelerate, to help them see that those technology actually can be extremely useful in education, extremely useful. And maybe I feel like this is an opportunity for especially using VR in education and teaching people in the same virtual classroom while they'll be, maybe in different countries, different continents, I don't know, respecting the social distancing, maybe in the same area, maybe in the same city, but being protected and from the comfort of their homes. There's a good side in that, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Inez. Like, so I saw a graph recently. It was showing remote work and remote kind of interactions already trending upwards. So things like what we're doing right now, a Zoom call, already trending upwards. When COVID happened, it shot through the roof. Now when stay-at-home's lifted, it's going to drop back down because, again, we still value in person. Yes. But it will be somewhere between where it was and where it got shot through the roof. So if it's already trending upwards, it's just it's gonna accelerate that endpoint of wherever it ends up, resting. So it's super important for companies to look at telepresence tools, AR, VR, and what that means for the future of their company. Because one, right now it's very important, and two, it was already trending upwards before coronavirus. We're gonna get there just quicker because of necessity.
Absolutely. Now, one last question, and you tell me if you want to add anything. Do you advise people who are passionate about AR and VR like me, but who are studying and who are thinking about building a career around those technologies and turning their passion into a job, or maybe a company, they're thinking about building their own startup like you did. So what would be your advice for those people? I'm talking about both, from people who are thinking about AR, VR from a career perspective, and others who are looking to those technologies as a potential, as an opportunity, business opportunity. Do you have any advices, anything you want to say to those people who want to use those technologies?
For the people who are still students or looking for that career and they have some time, that I'm super optimistic on, right? Apple glasses are slated to come out in about 2 years. A lot of AR tech is growing super fast, so it's changing every single month. So I would start playing around with things like Spark AR, with Unity. Unity is a very, very powerful tool to create AR experiences. Starting to understand how people use them, because that will also change. The whole industry of UX and UI of AR is still very, very new. So there's a lot of opportunity to learn, even help create part of it. That's one of the things that excites us the most. We get to create part of the design of how it might be used in the future. Like creating, no one knew that these face filters was really going to engage users as much as they did, but now they do. And we got to play a little part in that, which is really exciting. In terms of the business side, it's important. I mean, we might have to separate our business from like what other standard businesses are doing. We took a huge risk to invest in what might happen in AR. So we're like an AR company, and we look for business opportunities to use that technology. It is still really new. So the best way to use it is, if you have an established business, to start adding it in as a way to engage users. Maybe you get production optimizations out of it. What you're going to see in the next couple of years is that just to grow, right?
Yeah.
So as an industry, AR is still very, very new. People, companies like myself and other companies, were looking for business opportunities to figure out where this stuff can be injected. If you already have an existing business, I wouldn't really recommend changing it into an AR business. What I would do is I would say, how can, I don't know, if I make straws, whatever, how can I make this particular thing, either faster using AR or engage my users through advertising campaigns using AR. And that's where you'll find gains that will grow as time passes. But we do see the AR sector itself, it's just growing. So
absolutely,
we see this trajectory of AR in 5 years just gonna hit that exponential curve. But the earlier any company gets in it, when it hits that exponential curve, you're so much more well positioned to take advantage of everything that happens.
Absolutely, yes. It's just like, for instance, but maybe it's shorter for social media, maybe in early 2005 and 6, but the curve is shorter, where people, I remember on Facebook there was only the personal pages, and a lot of brands didn't see then that there was an opportunity. And look at social media right now for brands. I mean, you can't have a digital marketing strategy without considering social media ads and stuff like that. So you never know when the curve is going to, like you said, go exponential, but you need to learn about that. And here, my message, especially for marketers, you need to watch this trend. You need to try to play, like you said. I love it when you say play around with it, like try to use it, not even very seriously, just be curious and use it and see what you can get out of it. Maybe experience it, and just consider the technology and be curious about it. So I really enjoyed the conversation with you, Anthony, about those technologies, and I know that you have so much to say about those technologies. I don't know if you want to add something. Maybe we didn't get a question about this or that specific side. If you want to add anything.
I think we got a lot in there.
Absolutely, we got so much. But what I encourage people, you have a thank you from Alexander and Ethel. So thank you very, very much, Anthony. And if anyone has a question, or can you send the link of your company somewhere in the chat box, please?
I'll shoot my email over if you have any additional questions.
That would be even better. Thank you. So if anyone has a question, that's Anthony@foundry6.com. All right. If you have any question, please go ahead, and Anthony, I'm sure he will find the time to answer you back. And if ever we want to try one of your filters, what can we do?
Oh, well, I'll link that too. I think hopefully I get this right. Instagram.com/@augmented. So if you don't, I don't know if that's the exact thing, but the handle is @augmented.
Augmented? Cool. Yeah, that would be amazing, because we want people to try to play around with, be curious about those face filters, and maybe come up with ideas of using them, maybe for branding, for, we never know. Everything starts with playing. You never know what you can get out of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, like last point, what you said earlier was very, very good. Like you need to keep your eye on this stuff, because it might not be ubiquitous as social media is now, right? But no one knew what social media was before. But what we're seeing in the AR and VR space are these crazy spikes, right? Like 1 billion views in 2 weeks. Now, we want to see that happen repeatedly for us to consider it a sustainable industry. But
absolutely.
the fact that it happened is already something to pay attention to, right?
Yeah. I mean, 1 billion, this is crazy. 1 billion, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot.
A lot of people.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you very, very much. It was really interesting. I enjoyed it a lot. And obviously, many of our attendees, thank you very much. Please reach out to Anthony if you have any questions.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy, and Anthony. Bye-bye. See you soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.